I'm Kevin Rinke, and I'd like to welcome you to Beyond the Echo. I ran for governor in Michigan. After losing that election, my desire to look at issues that are important to the state or the country grew. There is so much static. There are so many opinions. Our news stations have gotten to the point where we don't know what news is anymore. Where do you go to get real facts? This is about real perspective for you. Beyond the Echo will cut through all the smoke, all the opinions. It's not about Republicans, it's not about Democrats. It's about the issues and what are real. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Echo. I want to clarify by saying that you're going to see a series of Beyond the Echoes where I'm wearing the same clothes. And it's not by coincidence, because we're taping these on the same day. I don't want people to think that, I only have one shirt and one sweater. And so it's this segment, we're going to talk about Doge and Mr. Big Balls in Washington, D.C., Elon Musk. And Tony's going to fire questions at me. And I'm going to give you my 50 cents worth.
We're going to give your Kevin Rinke's opinion on Doge.
On Doge.
Elon's he's making some bold moves already.
Yeah, he's making some bold moves. And by the way, not just Elon.
Yeah.
Elon acts at the request of our president.
Right.
The two are hand in hand.
Who is acting out the will of the people that elected him.
He's delivering on what he said he's going to do.
Exactly
so
right.
Anyone who's surprised by it,
They weren't paying attention.
Yeah. So Tony,
Or they
fire
have
away.
Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, there's plenty of that. I know several with that.
So let's go with the mass layoffs. Elon has overseen the reduction of approximately 85,000 federal employees, with 75,000 accepting buyouts, and then 10,000 were terminated. What are your thoughts on the impact this is going to have? Good, bad? What do you think?
Well, anytime you lose 85,000 jobs, it impacts those 85,000 people, their families, their communities. There's potentially 85,000 new opportunities. And government's a business. And for those people, I get it. It's not in the purest sense a business. But government's a business, and it does the business of the people, by the people, and for the people. So a lot of people are upset that the first step is cutting. Well, you can't get efficiency out of something that has so much fat. And so I think that I'm not surprised at the number of jobs that they can cut. I feel empathy for the people who have lost their jobs. By the way, when you cut 85,000 jobs, there's going to be some good people that get caught up in that.
For sure.
And that's not easy. I've been fired. I get it, and it sucks. When you are employed at something that you think is a lifetime gig, that it doesn't matter what you do and all of a sudden reality slaps you in the face, it's even worse. So for the people that were freeloading, well, I hope you enjoyed it while you freeloaded. For the people that weren't given 100% and didn't understand the responsibility. See, because when you work for the government, you work for me, the citizen, the people. And I don't expect you just to show up. I expect you to kick ass and take names every single day, to be a high-performing person and to care. And I know a lot of people that are employed in government that stopped caring a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that show up for work and they don't think that when a citizen asks them a question that they're there to serve the citizen. they think that that citizen's a pain in the butt. Here's what I do know, that we lose 85,000 people. There's over 2 million federal employees. So it's really a small reduction. And if that serves as a wake-up call at the federal level to the survivors, and if in fact they have found a new purpose, a new reason for being, Doge is going to be wildly successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because I challenge every single one of you that watches this or listens to this. When you go to work and you're around people who don't give a darn, who take no pride in what they do, they're just simply there collecting a paycheck, does that motivate you to be your best, or does it over time drag you down? And I happen to think that over time it drags you down. Those people get pay raises that they don't deserve them because they kiss butt. Those people, never seem to get in trouble like you do because you're working hard. And, oh, by the way, when you're working hard, your boss may look and be critical of the work you do and not the other people because they're not turning in the work.
Right.
So it feels like it's all on you. And I think that it's good stuff. I don't think any of these Doge dollars that they talk about, Tony, are going to come back to the citizens in the form of a check. I could be wrong. Elon or Trump floated, we'll give back X number of dollars. At the end of the day, government doesn't give back.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I've said this before, Donald Trump is not a fiscal conservative. He just simply isn't. He's not the typical, really, ultra-conservative Republican. Donald Trump is a spender, and that's okay. The question that the American people have to decide upon is, how do you want your money spent? And I would rather my money be spent on battleships or infrastructure or, taking care of Americans than what we are seeing Doge uncover. Okay? We're all looking at the same thing. So if the dollars spent remain the same, what do you want your money spent on? I want my stuff spent on tangible, identifiable things that benefit my country, my state, my community, my family, that add value. Okay? Researching the effect of cocaine on mice doesn't add value for me. And I'm sure someone's going to try and justify it. And yes, it's a crazy example, but there's lots of crazy examples out there.
Condoms to Gaza, like just all the crazy.
I don't even know if the condoms to Gaza was a real thing.
Knows?
Now the Democrats are fighting and arguing, there really wasn't $50 million worth of condoms. Well, you know what? On the one hand, I hope you're right.
Right.
Jesus, that's a lot of condoms.
What are they doing over there?
I mean, holy smokes. That's a lot of condoms. But the deal is, if it was for one, do you want your money spent? And that's the hard thing for Americans. We are the most philanthropic people in the world. We give to all these countries. And as soon as we stop giving, people say that's not fair, that's wrong. They don't realize, they don't think that giving is optional. The country has a choice. And now all of a sudden they don't like that the country's choice is to say, you know what? Maybe we gave more than we should. Maybe we've got a little ridiculous. Maybe our giving doesn't benefit America and her people. So I'm a big supporter of cutting the fat. And I feel bad for some people that are going to lose their jobs. My friend's daughter lost her job. I've mentioned that. I know other people that have lost their jobs. They're talented in the private world. They can go out and get really good jobs, and they will be okay because they're great people and they understand accountability. And for those people that were just kind of moving along, too bad. We need merit back in the system.
100%. So let's talk about DEI program cuts.
Yeah.
Terminated 104 contracts related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Comes in over $1 billion in savings. What do you think about that?
I love the sound of the toilet flushing.
We'll pipe that sound in for you right there.
Please do.
Yeah.
Because, look, America's a funny place. And when we are right, and right now, we've had a period of time where we've gone a little bit crazy. When we're right, it doesn't matter what color your skin is, what race you are, what religion you are. The cream rises to the top. And people come from all over the world. They want to come to America for what? Opportunity. Well, opportunity shouldn't be manipulated. Again, and it's an easy example. If you go to the dentist to get a tooth drilled on, do you want the guy who's a dentist because of his gender or her gender or their religion or their race? Or do you want the guy that aced it in dental school? And the same is true with your doctor. Do you want to put your money with the financial guy that the only reason he's there is because of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Or do you want to put your money with the guy that gets great results? Just that simple. I mean, it shouldn't even be challenging, for God's sakes.
Right.
And I here's what I will say. My Middle Eastern friends, my Asian friends, my black friends, my American Indian friends don't like DEI. They all want to be judged on what they bring to the table.
Right.
And they bring good stuff. They bring good stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There we go. So let's talk about USAID, the shutdown efforts there. I've been working to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. It's got some legal challenges, partial blocks by federal judges. So what's your perspective on the attempts to dismantle USAID? Obviously, there's been a lot of findings in that department.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, people have to understand that USAID really morphed out of our intelligence community. We ran a lot of spy stuff through USAID, and times have changed. We were putting so much money into it that people got out of control with it, and it was no longer effective. So we're seeing that with what they were spending money on. Now, some of those things are actually mislabeled. The title versus where the money was sent probably is different, but the title's the title. And we can always, after we stop funding that, determine where we want to re-engage. But I think the worst thing that we could do, and I'm really glad that Elon Musk says, look, I'm going to cut. And Donald Trump says, let's cut first. We're going to make mistakes. trust me, when we make a mistake, we have enough people in government to start screaming.
Yeah.
And when we have to rely on the judicial system to do the screaming, that makes me suspicious. That's a sign of weakness. Government can be responsive enough. I have enough faith in government, and I question it and I challenge it all the time. But I have enough faith that if we make a mistake, we'll correct it. The department may go away, but there's still going to be money spent appropriately now, or more appropriately than has been going on for many, many years. Let's face it, guys and gals. When you deal with other people's money, you don't care.
Right. It's like a rental
And
car.
government doesn't care. You know, it's they want to get a job done, but how contracts are negotiated, the value versus the contract can be conflicting. And we've made it so complicated and so convoluted in many instances in an attempt to be fair that it hurts us. It absolutely hurts us. And, the U.S., people should actually be proud of America because the U.S. lives up to its commitments. We're not perfect, but we live up to our commitments. And I'm going to use NATO as an example. There's a lot of countries. Being a member of NATO is a really good thing for those countries. Mm-hmm. But they have an obligation. And you go country by country by country, and you look at who lives up to their obligation. There are requirements that you provide a military force in funding as a percentage of your gross domestic product. We have very good friends that say, oh, yes, we want NATO. Oh, yes, we want the U.S. to live up to their commitment, but they don't live up to theirs. And that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. The U.S. isn't abdicating its responsibility around the world. You know what it's sending a message to? The people who have stopped appreciating what the United States has done, and their expectations need to change. NATO was created because the U.S., you could argue, saved the world. U.S. people died, our troops, fighting for what we believed was right, but fighting for the existence of other countries in forms of government. We haven't had a war like that in a long time.
Right.
And, strength through solidarity makes sense to me. So live up to your obligation. Real simple.
All right. Let's talk about the Pentagon budget cuts. They're looking to cut 8% from next year's defense budget. Do you believe that reducing the Pentagon's defense budget will enhance efficiency without compromising national security?
That's a great question. I had the pleasure. I spend 4 days with 3 generals every year out in Colorado. We ski in Vail, Colorado together. And I get to sit and listen. And one of those generals was a very high-ranking guy within the Pentagon. And we were talking about this. And we can cut significant dollars from the Pentagon budget and improve what we do, in what we get for the money that we spend. It's deeper than that because contractually, what a lot of folks don't realize is that we have these cooperating agreements with various countries across the world that contribute to some of the bloated costs that exist within our military budget. You know, it's easy to say, okay, we don't need to spend $35 for a roll of toilet paper. Right. That's easy. The question becomes, you know, we had business agreements in the Pentagon on manufacturing in Turkey. In Turkey, interestingly enough, which is not necessarily a friend of the United States, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, has great high end manufacturing. And to include them into the fold, we give them bloated contracts. How do we get out of those contracts? You know, can we bring it back into the States and get the same quality? Those are going to be challenges. But I happen to believe that if we build an airplane to defend the United States, candidly, I believe that those planes should be built in the United States. I believe that those parts should be manufactured within the United States. And I don't think a lot of U.S. citizens realize that, you know, we've got parts from all over the world that get contracted out. And it was an attempt to, I don't know what, it was an attempt to show American goodwill at the expense of America. And it makes it more expensive. So, yeah, we're going to be able to cut 8%. At the end of the day, the defense budget will go up. And here's why it'll go up. We've got to build ships. Mm-hmm. We've got to build aircraft. We have to resupply our arsenal. We have to be strategic with how we do that. And because we have directed almost 50% of the federal government's budget to Medicaid and Medicare, we're going to have to look and make some smart decisions, because we can't have security suffer as we start to reallocate funds, especially with what China is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay, you alluded to this earlier, but you know, you're a businessman and you had 26,000 plus employees at one point. And so I'm certain you had accountability measures in place to keep that many people doing their jobs. And so you talked about the email that went out that said, tell us 5 things you did in the last 10 days. A lot of pushback on that. Even the media is losing their minds about it. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's actually good that the media lose their minds. And I hope that many of them go find a quiet space and just disappear for a while. Trump derangement syndrome is real. And it amazes me, the fixation on the individual versus what is going on. So I'd ask my employees what they accomplished last week all the time.
All the time.
And we pushed accountability down through every level of our business. And I don't find a darn thing wrong with it. You know, I've mentioned that there's a buddy of mine who just, he says he's a Republican, hates Donald Trump. Everything that I say, he tries to imply that I'm speaking on Donald Trump's behalf. I'm not. But he says, how does Doge doing what it's doing show efficiency. And I think the first thing you got to do, you can't be efficient until you get rid of the fat. There is a process to get efficiency. And this is the first step. Um, People got to decide:
Right.
Are they going to get on the team, or are they going to fight it? And people, I think, a lot of people, not all people, there's great employees in the federal government, but they got to remember who they work for.
Right.
And to be asked a question shouldn't be offensive. It's caring enough about you to say that you actually matter. And the people who refuse to answer, you know what? They need an attitude adjustment. That's crap.
Yeah.
If your boss in the private world comes up to you and says, "So, what'd you do yesterday?" And you look at him and say, "It's none of your business," or I'm going to refuse to answer.
Bye.
Guess what? Pack your shit up and get out.
Right.
And is that so objectionable?
Well, the funny thing is, people understand that in the private sector. From the person that works at McDonald's understands that if they don't do what they're supposed to do, they're going to lose their job. And so, why do you think it is that people are having such a hard time understanding that this is actually a good thing? Potentially a good thing.
The press gets them ginned up. Look at the AP. You know what?
Yeah.
I laugh because I say to people on my social media platforms that constantly want to call me every name in the book or tell me how stupid stop reading my stuff, for God's sakes.
Right.
If you don't want to be here, and I'm not looking for cultists either. I'm actually looking for constructive conversation. But if the best that you can do is respond to one of my posts with "F you, you're an idiot,"
right.
Oh, you said that, you must be a pedophile. What? Yeah, I mean, think of the stupidity coming out of their mouth. And we have people in federal positions that are equally as stupid. And that's sad. And a little bit of accountability, a little bit of humility goes a long way. And it just, you gotta simply laugh. You gotta laugh, because when you have to sue, if your only resort is to sue your employer, 99 times out of 100, that's an indication of you're weak. It's an indication of that you probably shouldn't be there. There's the odd time when someone's an idiot. And so, the employer can be wrong. I get it. But the way the Dems are acting, sue for this, sue for this, sue for this. Donald Trump hasn't done a darn thing. Yeah, think of it this way. Donald Trump is saying, "I don't want to spend money like this."
Right.
And you can say, that's wrong. I didn't hear the right going to the extremes when Joe Biden said, "I want to spend money like this." And for judges to get involved and put these injunctions, all those do is delay. They are temporary. All they do is slow down. They don't stop it. Trump isn't doing anything illegal. He didn't create the Department of Doge. Actually, if you go back and you look, it was called something different, but Barack Obama did it. He had special employees. Elon Musk can work for 18 months, and then he's got to go. So you've got some people who are highly motivated to get a hell of a lot done in 18 months.
Right. Right.
And again, they're going to make the odd mistake. And you know what I say? Life isn't about spilling milk, it's about how you clean it up. So clean it up. Let's keep moving forward. It isn't the end of America. It isn't the end of the world. And interestingly enough, those that are saying that this is a constitutional challenge are the ones who are actually challenging the Constitution. What? When their guy was in power, it was okay, but now the other guy's in power and it's not? Politics should be more than a bunch of hypocrites in a room. So keep going, Elon. You know.
Well, you talked about this earlier as well, about the $5,000 checks that potentially could go out. It was explained at the White House briefing by one of Trump's financial guys that essentially they're considering giving 20% of what they save back to the public, which they estimate is about $5,000 per taxpayer, 20% to go back to pay off debt, and then the other 60% would then go towards future. They would reduce the budget next year because they would have that surplus. He said it would create a permanent savings. So is that talk? Is that headlines, or do you think there's a real reality that taxpayers will actually get a refund for what we have spent on waste potentially?
So I've got a different view. All right. If in fact we are saving all this money with Doge, I think it's great. And instead of saying we're going to cut you back a check for 20% of what we save, how about you get rid of federal income tax? How about you get rid of state income tax? That's real relief. My concern right now is Donald Trump in 5 weeks has written 307, I think the number is, executive orders, that if Congress doesn't get off their butt and start codifying these into law, the next person who's president, with the stroke of a pen, can eliminate all these executive orders. So if in fact we are going to be saving so much money, I don't want a refund check. That's the instant gratification side of things. I want a long-term solution. I want a smaller, more efficient government. And as that government becomes smaller, I want the tax burden on its people to go down. And I think income tax being eliminated is a great place to start.
I'm just trying to look up how many executive orders, because I know the people are going to come at you in the comments if you don't have the right number.
Yeah.
As of February 26th, Trump has signed 73 executive orders during his second term, which is twice as many as Biden had done at this same period of time.
I would have sworn I thought his press secretary said there was like 300.
Well, she did brag that he's done double Trump or double Biden and triple Obama at this point so far, but so it looks like the number is 73.
Yeah, and thank you. I must have misheard it. So the number's 73.
Still a lot. It's in a month.
Yeah. 2.5 a day.
Yeah.
2.25 a day. That's pretty good.
That is.
They were prepared.
They took their transition time and really knew what they were going to do in the first 100 days.
Sure.
But they're leaning into the press secretary is leaning into this being a point of pride, not a negative, like we're doing this because this is what we said we were going to do. So, of course, the media spins it as it's all negative. But to your point, if they don't codify it, it's going to it's going to be a 3.5 year, 4 year little Band-Aid that doesn't really have any long-term impact.
So all in all, I'm really excited about Doge. I'm concerned that if it's not codified with a significant act at the federal level, like repealing income tax for the people of America, that these numbers will start to not mean anything to people. People's attention spans, they move on. And I'm hoping that Trump and Elon come up with a plan that Congress makes law that allows the people to feel the value of what Doge has done. Because, let's just say this government's suddenly on a diet. And when you're on a diet, and you've accomplished your goal, you're more efficient. And the challenge is how do you stay efficient then? And if we don't codify it, forcing government to be efficient, and for me, that starts with collecting less taxes from people, because our taxes are what fund government. I'm concerned. So Doge is great. Seal the deal. And I'll support that. And I hope that the people of America will see it and feel it and support it as well. Because, let's face it, it needs a diet.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So thanks for listening to my views on Doge. And again, please respond. I'm interested to hear what you folks think. Is Doge doing the right thing? Do you have the patience and the courage to let it actually go through, in the commitment? Because it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to hear a lot of things. You're going to see a lot of things. You may feel negative things before you feel positive things. But if it's really the change you want, look at the good side of it. And I hope you do. I'll be listening and looking for your comments. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Echo. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop us a comment and share the podcast with your friends. Stay connected and keep the conversation going by following us on social media. Until next time, keep exploring beyond the echo.